and it it's gonna be fun. So
Awesome.
yeah,
That's
I
right.
think the fans will be excited when they see all the different people that come.
So is this the final season? Oh yeah, I guess you probably can't tell me any of that stuff. But so yeah,
I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
yeah.
We'll have
Are
to
you
wait and
doing
see.
Supergirl this year too, or?
Supergirl finished, so I did it already. I did
Okay.
the 16th episode. They're doing 20. I think they're airing number 9 right now. So they're introducing
Wait, the season Supergirl season
Guardian.
started?
Ozzy. Yeah. It
What?
started, it started, then they stopped it for a minute to finish Superman and Lois, and now they're back finishing it. So it's good. Like it's a great season. They wrap up everything really well, and they introduced Guardian this week. Ozzy's playing Guardian, so she's awesome. Um, so it'll be, yeah, they got some good stuff. David Ramsey directed it, so it's
Oh,
really good. It's a really powerful episode. Like they dig in. Black people especially like it because it really goes there. Yeah, it's good.
no doubt. Yeah, I mean, Supergirl is one of our favorite. Like as far as like the DC cinematic universe, Supergirl, I think it's super underrated. Like I don't think people give it the credit it's due. So they deal with a lot of social issues, you know, and our topic is diversity and isms, right? You know, but Supergirl, they really got with it when
Yeah,
that season with the Jimmy when he got arrested by the cops. You know what I mean? Like they really go in on it,
they
right?
went
Like
there.
yeah, they went
Yeah,
there. So
the
I
whole
appreciate
season was a social, really smart social commentary with a lot of heart. But yeah, they go there. That's a good one. That's my baby because that's the first one I got to do. So that's always going to be
it.
have a special place in my heart. And the
Yeah, and
people
then
were
you
so
know, and then
nice and
I do
everything.
love
So
Flash too. Flash is I say Supergirl and Flash are my two favorite out of DCU. I haven't really I started the new Superman one, but like for me,
you,
Flash and
you gotta,
Supergirl are those
yeah,
champs.
they're all great, but you gotta really dig in on Superman and Lois because it's the best Superman since Superman. It
Really?
really is. And when you
Okay.
get to episode, I did 10. When you get to, it's either 11 or 12 when they sort of retell all the things that we've never really seen with Superman
Yeah.
and had yet have seen, but have never seen it from this perspective. It's heart overflow. Like it's super well done. Yeah, it's shot anamorphically, so it looks like a movie. It's really great. Like that's yeah. It's Friday Night Lights meets Superman. It's the perfect iteration on TV that looks like a movie. Really well done.
Got you, got you. So I'm gonna ask you a hard question, but first let's bring in the other people here. Tiffany, how are you doing? Thank you for joining us.
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good, good, excellent.
Good.
It's
And Roy A or Roy, how do we say it?
It's Roy.
Roy?
Yeah,
Roy, thank you for joining us. We're glad to have you. Roy,
nice to be
yeah,
here.
Roy.
A coupe?
Yes, it is a coupe. How you doing, Eric? Long time, man. Good to see you.
How you doing, man? How you been?
I've
How's
been all
everything
right.
going? How you been?
Everything's going
Good.
well, man. Thank you.
Good.
Yeah, so Roy, you're here representing Dark Horse?
Yes, Dark Horse and myself as well.
Yeah, oh, yeah. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
yeah, we Dark Horse was kind enough to support AfroCon 2021.
Right.
And we reached out to them and they were like, hey, we got a guy that is awesome that can be on your panel. And boom, they hooked us up with Roy Kupak. And then Tiffany, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So Dr. Lawanda just sent me this link. Yesterday, there was a call for all of the BSAM members to, I guess, present as part of AfroCon.
BSAM being the Black Speculative Arts Movement.
Yes, and I'm in the Houston chapter. And I sent my information, but got the link back at the last minute and my phone was on Do Not Disturb, so I missed it. I was like, oh, my bad. So she sent this link in. I was like, okay, I'll join. I'm not too sure what I'm joining, but it sounds like I'm in the right place.
Yeah, we're talking about the panels on diverse mix. It's a family gathering. AfroCon 2021. It's an Afrofuturism convention. It grew out of the Afrofuturism Lounge, which was kind of ran parallel to San Diego Comic-Con. But since San Diego Comic-Con is not doing theirs in person, we are in San Diego doing AfroCon in person and virtually as well. So yeah, we're glad to have you here. Could you tell us a little bit about the Black speculative arts movement and how it pertains, or how it juxtaposes to Afrofuturism?
Yeah, totally. So, wow. I'm gonna try to keep it brief. So the term in and of itself was a term that was created by a scholar who wanted to, stamp the movement, if you will. And BSAM, the Black Speculative Art Movement, is an international group that has chapters, of course, in the nation, throughout the nation, and abroad, that really support the intellectual thought and creativity of what this speculative movement should look like. So it's a lot of different mediums. I mean, it could be anything from writing to visual art to animation and so forth. But each chapter has a theme that, supports social justice, education, unity consciousness, and it's all depicted in whatever way they see fit. Some chapters are organized as nonprofits, and some are organized as for-profits. But the global initiative in and of itself, it as a collective, it really just helps, for creatives to grow with each other and learn more about what's happening in the digisphere where it regards Afrofuturism. So I personally just turned myself into a superhero. I am the developer of a culturally responsive literacy development program for kids. It's really bothering me that we have so many kids that still can't read.
Right.
And I've been doing it for 10 years now, and I have proof of concept, and I'm ready to digitize it. So I've been pitching for VC for my company to expand. And in that process, came up with a superhero that I'm morphing into to teach just the basics of literacy development. We got to bridge the digital literacy gap. We're leaving too many kids behind. So that's what I've been focused on lately. By day, I'm a cultural communications consultant. So we basically teach white people how to talk to Black people.
A very necessary skill, and we appreciate you doing that
Yeah.
very good work you're doing there, because honestly, right, communication is key. Like it's the way that we're going to be able to resolve issues, right? And if people don't understand how to communicate with our community, then they're not going to be heard, and we're not going to listen, and things aren't going to get solved. So we don't live in a vacuum. We are all interconnected, right? As Dr. King would say, right?
Totally.
So a lot of times as Black people, and I'm sure you can attest, like, right, we have to figure out how we talk to them to be successful. But we're coming to an age where, hey, you should know how to talk to us.
Yeah, it's based on our values. Like, nobody ever asks us. There's always this exchange, this performance exchange. You always want me to do something for you. Until you start to value me and who I am and what I stand for, yeah, I'll constantly be in that space where I'm pivoting, to communicate to you and essentially begging you. I'm not begging you. That's not what this is about. So, right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I'm happy to be here. Sorry to be so long-winded. I appreciate it. But
no, thank you for being here. I appreciate that. And so we have somebody else joining us. I'm sorry, 133 Art. Can you rename yourself? What is
That's Jason. That's Jason Reeves.
Yeah, I did. I usually have it as 133 Art. How y'all doing? Yeah, I'm Jason Reeves of 133 Art Publishing. I don't know how to do the renaming thing on.
I got you. It's all good. Hey, yo, so Jason, please tell us what brings you here, what you do, introduce yourself, let the audience know, about you and what you do. And the topic obviously is diversity in comics and isms.
Okay. No sweat. I am a comic book publisher, independent publisher, distributor and printer, and an illustrator by trade. I yeah, so basically, fancy way I make comics.
All right. What are some of your titles so people can go look
Some
them
of
up?
my titles, my newest title is called Pax Samson, from Oni Press, Oni Lion Forge Press, whatever they're calling themselves these days. I do a lot of superhero books. 133 Arts flagship book is called One Nation, about a group of Black superheroes who are sort of like interventionist superheroes. They want to come in and make sure everything is working well on planet Earth for our people.
Where they at? Like, how do you got a phone number?
133art.com is 133art.com is the hub for our stuff. Pax Samson is being distributed by Simon and Schuster, so that's anywhere books are sold. Right. I also have a comic distribution company called Black Indie Comics Distro, that basically that kind of works in the same way Diamond is, but we're a startup. So Black in BIC distro.com is where you can buy a lot of books from a lot of Black creators in the Black comics universe, and buy those there. So yeah, that's me.
All right, awesome. And Roy, can you introduce yourself, please, and tell us a little bit about yourself, or your comics, your titles, where we can find them. Sure. And if you all could put the stuff in the chat, that would be great. That way we can make sure we get it out and people can access it.
Yeah, my name is Roy Coupe. I was born and raised in Lagos, Nigeria. Always been a fan of superhero fantasy stories. For me, I always wanted to see these stories told from the African perspective, see these stories taking place in Africa, specifically Nigeria, where I was born and raised, and just infuse history, culture, and mythology into these genres in a way that has never been done before. It's funny that Eric is here because Eric was actually one of my main inspirations when I first got into comics, The Legend of Mantamaji. I try to tell him this every time I see him. It was really, for me, it gave me the confidence to know that somebody else before me had gone ahead to start to infuse some of these type of mythological stories into mainstream comics, because I'd never really seen it done so authentically before. So for me, a lot of what I do now is integrating, like I said, the culture, the history, and mythology I grew up with into familiar storytelling in superheroes and fantasy, but also really telling character-driven stories. Some people know me for Malika Warrior Queen, which is one of our most popular titles at Unique Studios, as well as EXO, The Legend of Wally Williams, and also now Iyanu, Child of Wonder. And all these stories actually take place in a connected universe. And luckily for us, a couple of years ago, Dark Horse reached out and we signed a partnership for a 10-book deal. So Dark Horse moving forward will now be publishing some of the books that we self-publish, and then some new titles and new volumes of some of the books we published previously. So it's a really exciting time to be able to get a partner like Dark Horse to now bring these stories to a larger audience, and to really start to, I think for me, one of the things I'm most excited about is both new and old fans are going to be getting something new with these books. And also just being able to, like I said, tell these stories to a larger audience is something that I'm very grateful for. And I have to shout out Dark Horse, because I always try to tell people that before, we had this upswell of a push for diversity last year. They reached out to me in 2019 when it wasn't really sexy to put these type of things out there. And when there wasn't really like a super incentive to be, for lack of a better word, culturally, adequate, or whatever the case may be. So I give them kudos for being able to reach out and say this is something that the world needs to see, and putting everything that they have behind that. And I'm so excited for people to be able to see what it is that we've been able to, to do with the old editions and some of the new books that we're coming out with. And like I said, it's very exciting. And hopefully, yeah, so the first book will be launching on September 7th, Malika Warrior Queen. I'll drop a link in the comments for where people can get that. So Malika Warrior Queen Volume 1 comes out September 7th, and then Ianu Volume 1 on the 17th, and then EXO Volume 1 comes out October, I think the second week of October. So really exciting stuff to look forward to.
Excellent. Awesome. And your comics are going to be available digitally as well as in the stores, right?
Yeah, everywhere you can get a book, you'll be able to find the books. Digital bookstores, libraries, comic book shops, Amazon, Targets, Walmart's, like, if you want it, you can get it. So there's no excuse, because we all, part of the reason we're here is because people want to see more diversity. Now it's even when you talk about, the stuff that Jason and Eric are doing right now, there's no excuse. I see a lot of people talking about, oh, we need more Black stories, we need more this stories, we need more diverse. Well, it's out there. Like it's literally right out there. Like if you take 5 seconds to do a Google search, or just go on Facebook, or just post a comment and say, hey, can somebody recommend X, Y, and Z? You will get tons and tons and tons of quality content in the indie space, in the mainstream space. There's really no excuse anymore for you saying you can't find what it is that's, or people that look like me, and stuff like that. It's out there now. So, we now need your support so that these things, like, because this industry is numbers based, right? The more books we sell, the more stuff you're going to see. So if you really are for diversity, and you really are for characters, Black characters or diverse characters, you need to go out there and purchase these books. Watch these TV shows, like, some of the stuff that Eric is doing. You need to put your support out there, because that's the only way you're going to see it consistently.
Real talk. Back in the day, like, the onus was always on me to find the things that I love to read, or the things that I love to watch, and what have you. And this was a lot of that time was before the internet, man. We got the internet. It's at your fingertips, literally. So I'm always a big proponent of the audience putting it on their backs to find us as well, because that question, like Roy is saying, man, that question is out there, but if that question is rumbling around in your brain, go to Google. We in there.
We have someone else joining us, Quentin. Can you introduce yourself, Quentin? Quentin, you are muted, so we can't hear you.
Hey, greetings. Sorry, I'm just getting situated. The time difference kind of threw me off.
Okay, where are you at, Quentin?
I'm in Toronto.
All right. Got 2 people up in Canada. Indeed.
Thank you.
But
Thanks for joining
hello,
us.
greetings. Yeah, so my name is Quentin Vassetti. I'm one of the founders for the Black Speculative Arts Movement Foundation, and also founder for BSAM Canada, the institution, an organization, the first non-for-profit organization for the BSAM movement. I was one of the first members who was at the original exhibition back in Harlem, New York, for Unveiling Visions. And produced, I was a part of the first book, Cosmic Underground, and co-edited Cosmic Underground Northside, which is the Canadian edition, highlighting over 100 Black Canadians as the first of its kind. And just been, supporting the vision and working very closely with Dr. Ronaldo Anderson and a lot of the different chapter leaders, just trying to push and elevate our people across the globe. I'm helping to launch BSAM Caribbean and BSAM Ghana as well, and BSAM South Africa and Germany.
Awesome.
And honored to share and hold space with y'all.
And thank you for being here. We're talking about diversity and isms in comics, and how we move the needle of progress forward in our community. Because I think a lot of times, we talked about this yesterday with John Jennings and Kevin Reeves about social justice and art, and how a big part of like BSAM and Afrofuturism is about social justice. But at the same time, you want to entertain, right? You want to tell the stories that when you was a kid, you wanted to see, but you couldn't see. And so, as Roy said, shout out to the GOAT over there, Eric Dean Seaton. He's been quietly, quietly been putting that work in, doing that thing, like such an illustrious career, man. Like, can you tell us a little bit about some of the trials and tribulations and successes that you've seen in the time that you've been in the industry? Because you've been in it such a long time. So you've seen that there is a change, right? Obviously, there's still more progress to be made, but can you just tell us a little bit about that?
I think we are in the battle. I call it the battle for change, because in our art, in our industry, they're finally being open to diversity and openness. But as you see with a lot of things happening around the world or happening in the United States, there's the fight on for what people see as survival. Entitlement always seems like oppression to people that are entitled, for which it's not. In terms of the industry, it's been a massive change. And look at the Marvel movie that's coming out this weekend, that they had such low predictions for it, but yet it's probably almost going to do $100 million in the middle of a pandemic. I feel like we have to keep pushing. I think what everybody said is 100% right, that our work is out there. They just have to go see it, go find it. I mean, well, Darkers is a huge brand, but without a big brand, it may take a little effort, but it's not that much effort when you can just type in Google it. But all the type of stories that we're trying to tell are out there, and I feel honored that you guys call me an old head, and because I feel like we all started doing it at the same time, but we're just pushing forward on the things that we didn't see when we were younger, but determined to make change. And I think as long as that continues, change will happen. And if I've in way inspired anybody, it just makes me so proud and honored, and because I enjoy all the work and everything. So it's cool.
Yeah, for sure. And we appreciate you. Big dog, we appreciate you. Especially with the hats. You bring the style, Eric. You know what I mean? So
Gotta do it, baby.
No doubt. Yeah. So talking about, you mentioned like, the film that just dropped for Marvel this weekend, and it's already doing better than a previous film that dropped, right? That didn't do it well. And I think the reason it's doing well, right, is because it's a diverse character, right? But within that, within our community, we had this conversation the other day that there was some flack about one of the actors in the movie. Are any of you familiar with that? The whole appropriation? And I just want to get your thoughts on that, because I'm from New York, and so I have a lot of friends who are, I have a diverse group of friends, and I know growing up in New York, it's not so much cultural appropriation, it's more as people, like, we bring culture wherever we are as Black people. Like, that's what we do, we create culture. And so people tend to gravitate towards that, and when they're in our circles, they tend to, you know what I mean? There's lines, obviously, but people tend to gravitate towards our culture and emulate it and be a part of it. So what do you all think about that whole controversy over what the people label as a cultural appropriation?
I
I
mean,
think there's a validity to it, with this particular actor. There's a lot of speculation, especially because she's not necessarily from an area that's like densely populated with, Black folks and whatnot. As I understand it, it's more of where she comes from is more of a more affluent area, and then to kind of and it's really a hard thing at the same time, because Aquafina is who we're talking about, and she was a rapper too, right? So when you go that route, a lot of times you're into hip-hop culture, your mannerisms and your speech kind of reverberate the culture. But at the same time, it's just like to me, it's like a basic thing. Like, if you're not from there, if you're not, if you haven't had those particular experiences, then it's going to raise red flags, man. And you want to be cognizant of that. because she's not. I could see if she was like a teenager or a young person, but she's not a young person. She's a grown adult. So, and in this era, again, everything is at your fingertips. So if you don't know how appropriation works, and you're talking like a Black person or a person in the hip hop community, maybe you want to look it up. So again, I don't know if there necessarily needs to be animosity towards her in the sense of, like how internet trolls get down, but there is a validity to the criticism. And I think she, I think she should internalize it and figure out what's real,
Anybody else?
Do I think we need to boycott Shang-Chi? Nah, it's not that serious.
Yeah.
Well, because also the thing is, like, yeah, we get at her for this, but like, really, the finger should be pointed at the writers, you know what I mean, at the directors for who let this shit go, you know what I mean. But for me, especially as a Jamaican Canadian, continental Pan African man, you know what I mean. For me, I recognize culture isn't always based on race and ethnicity, and so it's more about your contributions and acknowledgement, right? And what groups you are a part of. Yes, race and ethnicity informs culture, but you could be invited to participate in the culture, right? So I didn't know her background as a hip hop rapper, you know what I mean? And so hip hop itself is not based only on race and ethnicity. Just like dancehall, you know what I mean? Just like dancehall and reggae is not only based on uh, it being done by Black people, African people. You know what I mean? There's people around the world who have made amazing music within, the reggae genre, within dancehall culture. So, but they were invited and they acknowledged that they were invited and they were a part of it. So I don't know too much about her, but I didn't see it as something to flag her for. I didn't see it as something that's worth boycotting a film that will open up more doors um, for. And I think it is worth a conversation of like saying, okay, well, how do we make sure we benefit, like, the originators of the culture? How do we make sure we benefit and acknowledged, rather than try to make it exclusive? Because if we make it exclusive and police people, we're no different than, Europeans.
Colonizer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I want to point out two things, Jason, real quick. I want to point out two things. One thing you said is like, is she cognizant of it? And then Quentin, you said like her contributions. I think that's the most important part to it to us. Like, I think a lot of times people try to use political correctness to box us in as a community, right? Like somebody that's not even involved will come and be like, oh, well, you can't or you shouldn't, right? When as we're kind of thick-skinned because we've been doing this a long time. You know what I mean? We've been dealing with this. So like my thing when I saw it was like, oh, she's from Queens. I was like, okay, I'm from New York. I understand. Like if you're from Queens, a certain part, you are most likely, you will speak that way. And then the other thing was like, well, what's her stance on Black Lives Matter, on the issues that we're going through? Like, was she out there supporting? Shout out to Crazy Woke Asians, friends of the show of Afronauts. Like they came on and they support it, right? Like, so like what, like you said, Jason, like what was her contribution? And then like you said, Quinn, what's her acknowledgement, right? Does she give props to like the foundations of hip hop? Because hip hop is a culture, another culture that we created, like rock and roll, like blues, like jazz, right? And we've seen how those things have turned into somebody else's money-making mechanism. And like you said, not acknowledging, not contributing back to the source. So yeah, I was like, I don't think I need to boycott Shang-Chi. I'm trying to see how they're going to do this martial arts movie and are they going to do it properly and correctly? I want to actually, I was curious to see our Asian brothers and sisters reaction to how they did it. You know what I mean? So that's just my little thought on it. Does anyone else have a thought or something they'd like to say?
I kind of think there's I think the big issue was the code switch, right? Like we use code switch as a way of kind of surviving in America, right? Like we jumping on our AAVE and then we jumping back to like our phone voice. And I think people got upset because when she was a rapper and when she was coming up, she was hip hop, right? Vernacular wise. And then I think when she got into Hollywood, then she code switched and everybody's like, well, is that who you really are? Like, is that what it was? Is it what's the girl, the white girl from Australia? Is it an Iggy Azalea situation where it's like, you ain't about that life, right? So I think that's where the controversy comes in. But again, like I think because it's a Marvel movie and it's supposed to, it wants to do well, and some people think it should do well. There are also those others that don't want it to do well. And I feel like a little part of it, and that's why it seems that's why it's such an iffy situation. A little part of it is people who don't want it to do well are sort of fueling that fire, right? Because
100% agree. You know what I mean?
Why does somebody not want it to do well? What's that about?
Because it's an Asian-led, Asian, as I understand it, directed, Asian cultured movie.
I think it goes back to your point, Eric, when you said like equality feels like oppression, right? You're like, oh, you got these Black movies out here now you got the Asian movie out here. Like, how are they doing all this and we're not just focusing on Thor, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed god of Norway? You know what I mean? And not that there's anything wrong with Thor, you know what I mean? But some people only wanted to be focused on that. And so they would rather pit the two people, they would rather pit the family against each other than to lift everyone up.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think that's the long and short of it.
Yeah, you can't worry about that. That's and their only power is the internet, because if there was no internet, then you wouldn't know that stuff. You know what I mean? So you just.
Yeah, definitely. But that brings into a point like critical thinking and us as a community not being like Jason said, like I saw it and then I was like, well, nah, we really need to make sure that our community is insulated from these trolls, right? That we're not gaslit to fight a fight that's not necessary to fight. You know what I mean? Like, let's focus on Let's focus on the isms and what we really need to do to push that needle of progress forward, right? Because even in the whole diversity thing, right? You talk about diversity and anti-racism, but that doesn't really include, that's not really pointing out anti-Blackness, right?
Right.
That is, and for us, that's the crux of the issue, right? Is anti-Blackness, like, because we're super inclusive people for the most part. Like I said, we create culture and we share it. We bring people in, dance hall, hip hop, jazz. We bring people in, and then but then people don't come back, and they're like, "Yo, we get the butt of it." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, this is one of the reasons why it's so important for us to center, literacy and language. When we're talking about, there's two, you think about it, for every connotation, there's a denotation. So if we say appropriate and appropriate, they can sound the same, but they have two different functions. So again, like Quentin said, if she, doing her thing and there's some affiliation, like that's her right. We should constantly use these platforms and point to these instances as ways to grow what we're doing. Like I've said this, I'm like, we're gonna spend so much time trying to tear other shit down that ours ain't gonna be built up, And it's what they've done forever. Like, when are we gonna get that they're not gonna, change based on our everyone need? We have to be diligent and vigilant about, expressing our values in our work and saying, well, in my work, this is the lens I look through, that's all good, for you to do what have you, but this is why, this was my big why, our children, our communities need to see the rest of the story, so it is what it is. Still love Marvel.
yeah, definitely. Roy, you've been a little quiet over there. You have any comments on that?
Yeah, for me, I didn't really, I don't know enough about the situation to truly comment from an educated perspective. For me personally, I ignore a lot of things online. Not because I'm not interested. Excellence just takes so much time that for me, I have to really, really pick and choose what I want to get involved with. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't have social commentary on things that are important, don't get me wrong. But I've gone to a point in my life and in my career where I'm so focused on my goals and things that I want to achieve that I've found out that the people that get to the highest level in whatever industry, one of the things that they share in common is not just masters of their craft, but also masters of the time that they have and time management. So for me, I don't comment a lot on social media. I don't get into debates. I don't get into some of the things I see even now in the indie community, like spats and back and forths and things like that. Not that it's not important to address certain things. Again, I want to be very careful with what I'm saying, but I think also as creatives and creative people, we all get 24 hours in a day. And it's so hard in any industry, especially the entertainment industry, to succeed, especially as a Black person. There's already so much working against us. We have to be 3, 4, 5 times as great to be able to get, half of what people would get just in a normal circumstance. So there's just already so much working against us that, I just really just try to focus and stay in my lane. When there's something that I'm very, very educated about, I will comment about it. But if it's just minor things where people are arguing about something that or talking about a Marvel movie or boycott, Marvel is making billions of dollars, and they're going to continue to make billions of dollars no matter what I say, literally. I don't give myself so much credit that I can go online and say something about Marvel and then Marvel and people are going to tomorrow not see Eternals or the next Avengers movies. I don't have that amount of power yet. Maybe, hopefully when I do, then I can do more. But right now for me, it's as a creator, it's just, I'm very super and hyper focused to be excellent in everything I do. And that takes a crazy amount of time. And I also want to be excellent while, also being there for my family. And I just had a daughter as well. I want to be part of her life. So I've had to cut so many things to me, it's family, work, and then friends. And then maybe 1 or 2 things that I want to talk about, socially and commentate on, I will do here and there. But I've reached a point in my career. If it's not like Eric said, there's just some people online that have made up their minds. And no matter what you say, if I ask you guys here, how many times do you see on social media somebody say something like, or reply to a comment like, oh, I actually agree with you, or I've changed my mind? 99% of the time, it's the opposite. It's just argument back and forth. You will never hear somebody say, you know what, you're right, and I've changed my perspective because you actually broke it down in a way that is fair and objective. So I've always taken a very different approach, but I do also understand that there sometimes you have to come out and talk about issues, especially like I said, in the height of the Black Lives Matter thing, that I even came out and made some comments. So I want to make sure people understand that there's a balance to this thing. But when it's things like boycott a movie, I'm just whatever, man. I'm not gonna wait.
Roy, I'm right there with you, and I think the main reason I brought the whole thing up, right, it is, as Jason said, it is one of those. It's kind of a tricky situation, but it's also one of those things that it's kind of like a honeypot, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like they gaslight you to bring you in, you said, to argue about this.
Yeah.
Because even bad news is bad publicity is good publicity for Marvel, who's still making millions of dollars, right? Yeah. But then, for us, we're still being, when we talk about diversity and ism, we're still being played as a marketing piece, right? How do we get more interest in this movie and more a community, right? So they're using this argument to bring our community in to be invested in some form or fashion over this argument, right? And so
exactly. I mean, I agree with all that. I just see a lot of things online where I'm just this is just so ridiculous, and people spend too much energy, and there's way more important things for us to be discussing and debating about For us, people like us, we get to make movies and comics and entertainment, which is great. I love it. But, there's people right now in parts of the world where they don't know where they're going to get next meal. People are trying to, mass exit, so things as little as, boycotting Shang-Chi, like you said, like, I always feel like sometimes there's also agendas, when people like try to throw these things out there as well. Like Jason said, sometimes people aren't actually trying to have a debate. They're just trying to get on your nerves, or they're trying to, push their own agenda for some. So when I see things like that, and I'll give another example, and I'll shut up. Even the whole thing about when Chadwick passed, God rest his soul, and then the whole thing about, oh, is Marvel going to replace him, or they should this, they should, Marvel is going to do whatever they want to do. Like, this is a multi-billion-dollar company. They're going to do. Why don't we put that energy and that debate into indie comics, into Black-owned, companies or creators? Like, why don't we put our energy behind those things and have debates about those things? And again, I don't hate. I love Marvel. I love Disney. I grew up on Lion King, and I watch all the Marvel. Some of them I've watched them 10 times. That's not an exaggeration. So I'm a super Marvel fanboy. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you can't go and see Marvel. I'm just saying the things that we actually spend our energy on. Like, we have to do that on things that affect our community directly. You understand what I'm saying? Like, let us have debates about, okay, how do we empower Black creators? How do we get more people, behind the camera, like Eric? Like, how do we get more people, writing the next, Marvel movie? How do we get more people creating their own, Marvel? Like, how do we get to a point where, we have Black producers, Black executive producers, people that actually run these big companies? Or how do we elevate some of these independent companies now to a place where in 50 years they become like Marvel? Like, those are the discussions that I like to get into, things that are going to directly affect our community, put money into our pockets, generate wealth for generations. To me, these are the things that I feel like that's where the debate is. And these debates aren't even necessarily for social media. They're for forums like this, where we can actually have a discussion, not when, people feel, super, strong behind the keyboard and they can say whatever they want to say without any evidence or facts or whatsoever, and just log off and go away. Like, to me, but I'll shut up now.
He's 100. Roy's 100% right, because if you even at your convention, if everybody at the convention bought our books, just one of our books, the amount of sales, the amount of people respond to numbers, and all of a sudden Hollywood or the media or whoever
Exactly.
would go, wait, what's this? Did what?
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden they would see what they're actually want, but they will try a mainstream thing or wait or wait, because it's easy to comment on the brand and tell the giant brand that will outlive all of us what to do with their property, but won't invest in the things that they say they want. And the funny thing is, you're 100% right. Our work has to be 5 times better, or they'll go, but didn't even try. You know what I mean? So it's a trip. It's a trip. So change comes from within, but we have to force change. We have to do change.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. I think it's like, something that it's active. Like, we have to actively be on our job. A friend of mine once said, he's like, you watch those Hobbit movies, right? He's like, the thing with the Hobbit movies is the light side, Frodo and them, they would come together whenever there was a problem. But the dark side was always on their business. They was constantly working. Right, but Frodo and them would be like, "Yo, let's have a party. We did it. Cool. See you in like 20 years, right?" And that's the thing with us. We have to understand, like, we got to constantly be on our game, because these dark forces, they
don't sleep.
My mama used to say they wake up early in the morning. Right, like, and I was watching a while back. I was watching the Rumsfeld and what's the guy who had all the heart attacks? I forget his name. Cheney, the Cheney movie, Adam McKay's Cheney movie. And what part blew my mind was there was this lawyer in the movie. I forget all the names, but he worked for the administration, and that dude's literal job was to figure out how to circumvent the law every day. He get up, he go into his office, and he figures out how to circumvent the law so they can get Halliburton into the Middle East and implant what they needed to implant so they can make money. Literally, that was his job. And my mama was right. They get up early in the morning, so we got to get up earlier, or we just got to stay up. But I mean, I'm with Roy, absolutely. Like, yo, time management is a real thing. Time is the money most of the time. So you definitely have to, especially when it comes to family. I got a 7-year-old kid who wants to see me right now, right? Like, we definitely have to divert. Also, I believe there does need to be a fair amount of gatekeeping at the same time, because I think other cultures do it. They make sure that the, for lack of a better word, homogeny is still homogenized. And while I don't think we necessarily need to be monolithic about it, I do think there needs to be just a fair amount of gatekeeping. So while I don't want to get online and go back and forth about Aquafina or go back and forth about replacing Chadwick, I do think the discussions are not without merit.
So, Jason, what I'll tell you is, so
I agree with that, by the way. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. So, Jason, I totally agree. What I'll tell you, so Edfu Foundation is the nonprofit we started, and we work within the United Nations, right? And we actually just helped, we're on the working group, the principal working group for the Permanent Forum for People of African Descent. Like, how many people know that we're in the decade of the international decade of people of African descent? We're halfway through it. 2025 is when it ends. August 31st was the International Day of People of African Descent. Congresswoman Barbara Lee put a bill on the House floor, and they passed recognition for the International Day for People of African Descent. We have a permanent forum dedicated to us where we can organize at the United Nations coming in 2022. Right. And so these are the things that we work on to try to bring awareness to our community, the things that BSAM is doing, to bring in the arts movement, because art is part of our community. That's part of our heritage. It's a mainstay. You know what I mean? Just like in England, I don't know if y'all follow football, right? But when they tried to do the Super League, they was like, yo, we can't do that because football is a European heritage, they said. You know what I mean? That you talking prime ministers and stuff in. And so for us, our arts are the same way. And so the other thing I'll say on that is, I agree with you with the gatekeeping. And when you talk about one way to do that is something that we're currently working on. It's called biocultural protocols. It's on how you approach a community that is indigenous, which Black people are, because we've maintained culture throughout colonialism, right? So our biocultural protocols, it gives a template on how people are supposed to deal with our community. So like you said, JC, so we don't get caught up in that. Like, you should have known already. You didn't see what we put out as our protocols on how to approach us. So look out for that in 2022. Also, please share, like, and talk about the Permanent Forum for People of African Descent. It's bringing the diaspora together, and it's something that's truly important. So I'm right with you right there. So I just want to put that out, since we're talking about diversity and isms and ways that we move forward, because we always want to talk about solutions, right? The part of that excellence that Roy, you talked about, Jason and Eric, of doing the work and constantly, getting to it is, you don't look for, the reason Eric's such a prolific director is because he ain't go over there talking about problems. He came with solutions. He's like, I could do it this way, or I could do it that way. Like, you know what I mean? And that's what makes us successful. We figure out if there is a roadblock, how to go around it, how to circumvent it so that we can still succeed.
Absolutely.
So with that, I would say is like, moving forward for our community, what are some things that you feel and I'll go to Tiffany with the Black Speculative Arts Movement, and Quentin, you guys are steeped in that. Like, what are some ways that people can get involved with the Black Speculative Arts Movement, things that we could do to move it forward?
Well, first and foremost, what I'm always looking for feedback is it's something for our younger males. So if there is content that's geared towards younger males, what I do is I develop activities and exercises that support that. When I first got my micro badge to nurture STEM identity, I did use Black Panther just because it was mainstream and the kids really gravitated towards it. And so just using those examples and showing them first and foremost images that look like them really helps them to transform their thoughts about reading and what it entails. So I'm always looking for content that is specific to the young male, specifically the babies that are going into fourth grade, because that's where we lose them. Aside from that, feedback on, this digitization of my programming, because I do have a goal. Like I said, the STEM report just came out and we still have way too many children that are consuming and not producing. And so when we're talking about gaming and we're talking about AI bias and all of, cybersecurity, it's, yeah, we can create all day, but here again, if the babies don't know what we're creating and why we're creating it, they don't have the blueprint.
So real quick, do you have a NSBE chapter in Houston there? Like, are you familiar with the NSBE chapters there, the NSBE Junior, to get the young people involved in the STEM?
So yes, I'm not a member, but I'm familiar with NSBE just from my corporate sales days.
So NSBE they have a NSBE Junior programs, and if you don't have one in your area, you're like, you just talk to a NSBE, and NSBE is a National Society of Black Engineers.
Black Engineers, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't know they had a junior
chapter.
That's what's up. Okay.
Yeah, because I think a lot of times we reinvent the wheel when we don't have to. There's organizations out here that's doing good work. My son was involved in SB Junior. Like we live in California, so like they hooked him up. They did tours of Google and Oracle. They set him up with mentors there, and now he's on track to be an engineer himself, right? And so and then there's the NSBE National Convention he went to. It really enlightened him. He got to see Black engineers that are doing this work, and so I always encourage people like, hey, NSBE is out there, NSBE Junior. You can start a chapter, even if you're not an engineer yourself. You can start a chapter with people and they will guide you and get you hooked up with people who want to do that good work. So I always like to put that out there.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. And Quentin, what's going on with our Canadian brothers? The end of the Underground Railroad, the final stop. You know what I mean? What's going on up there, man?
Man, we have a lot of programs going on, a lot of different projects. Our three main P's, as we like to say, is programs, projects, and partnerships. So in Vancouver, we just finished doing a festival. In Montreal, we have a lot of groundwork happening, a lot of coordinating happening, especially folks who believe in holistic practices and are not too keen with what's happening with the vaccine. They're really mobilizing with farming and making sure people focus more on health, So BSAM's supporting them with that. In terms of just getting people to think about the future and think about different ways that we can create sustainable living. So that's something that we have going on in Montreal.
Food security is food sovereignty is very important, right? Because health is wealth, and what you eat, living in food deserts. I know down here in America, I can attest to people not having supermarkets or access to fresh produce. That takes a toll, and you get young people that eat bad stuff. So I'm with you there on the holistics, man. I appreciate it.
And we got something similar jumping off in Halifax. So that's the far East Coast. And then in Toronto, we're doing a lot of public art projects, So, during this moment in time, as we're starting to get back outdoor, we're trying to get people going outdoor and seeing, Blackness represented in the landscape. So actually behind me is the monument that I made. It's actually Toronto's first monument of a person of African descent. And then we just finished another art piece dedicated to Olamina from Octavia Butler's Earthseed. And so again, just think about having just black folks or black representation in the landscape is really important to us. So that's some of the things that we got going on up here in the north.
That's what's up. That's awesome. So, Jason, where can we see you coming up? What projects do you have going on as we start to wrap up and come to a close?
So the hottest thing for me right now is Pax Sampson, and it's essentially Pax is a young black kid from a family of black superheroes, but he can cook. Like he's on his way to being like a really good chef, and he doesn't know whether he wants to maintain the legacy of superheroism or if he wants to break off and be a chef. At the same time, there are forces in his world that are trying to, mess things up. And, do I deal with that? Or do I let my grandmother handle it? Because she's like the main superhero of this world and she's the strongest and we believe in her. Or, do I jump in with the rest of the family and, help save the world? So that's what's going on. That's what we're developing. We're actually working on.
Are any issues out right now, or is it still?
Yes, volume 1, Pax Sampson, the Cookout, is it's being distributed by Simon and Schuster, so it's available anywhere books are sold. It's from Oni Press /Line Forge. You could also get it at Big Distro, my distribution company, and on my website 133art.com. But that's our big thing. I'm gonna have a few new launches at 133 Art. We have 2 new One Nation comics coming, and we have a comic called Beautiful's Barbecue, another book about superheroes cooking. These are sort of horror tinted superheroes. The Beautifuls are another family who basically solve haunted mysteries out of a food truck. And we have, man, what else we have? We have a Western coming. I'm trying to just touch every genre. A lot of sci-fi books.
Me and Eric were talking about before we started. We were saying like, one of our cosplay winner was a dark elf because she said there wasn't a lot of black people represented in fantasy. You know what I mean? Man, so you gonna touch that too?
Yeah, actually, my whole thing is, man, I want to see black people as gods and monsters and protagonists and superheroes and scientists and engineers. Like, so we putting I'm putting every toe into every genre I can and trying to produce books. And there's so many underrepresented represented creators out here who don't have a publisher, you know what I'm saying? Or who don't have the means to produce this great work that they're writing and developing and creating and drawing. So 133 Art, with our limited resources, are trying to put some stuff out there. We have a book called The Crossing.
The represented artists should hit you up at 133art.com.
Yeah, man, hit me up. 133art publishing at gmail.com. Again, like our budget is mad limited, but if you got something hot, like, and I read it, I'm gonna try to do what I gotta do. I have a book.
You gonna ring Eric on the phone and be like, "Yo, we got."
Hey, can I?
Like, hit me up. I'm looking for fantasy, looking for good stuff. Hit me up. Yeah.
Trust me, man. I'll hit you up now. Don't tell me that. But yeah, so we have The Crossing #2 coming out. The Crossing #1 is available at 133art.com. It's a sci-fi comic about a scientist with his daughter jumping through the multiverse on a sort of cat and mouse game with the FBI. Retcon is about futuristic organization that jumps back through time to repair it. We doing everything we can. Hopefully we can jump into animation. I just saw something on YouTube about the Unreal Engine and how it can help produce movies and stuff, and I'm trying to get in on that. Like, I just want to, whatever resources I have, I want to make things with black people in front. So that's again 133art.com. That's where 133 Art Publishing is. Holla at it. There's stuff for sale all day.
Thank you very much, bro. We appreciate you. And Roy, so yeah, we obviously you told us a little bit. If you could one more time, tell us where we can find your stuff, the latest project, and yeah, how we can reach you.
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way is obviously uniquestudios.com, YOUNWEK studios.com. But like I said, our Dark Horse line of books are going to start coming out next week from September 7th, and you can get Malika Volume 1, which is actually a 336-page, I like to call it a tome. It's not a book. It's like this massive volume of just an amazing story. And then it has.
Can I interrupt you and say Malika is like the best thing I've read in years? Like, yo, I know you see my post online.
I paid him to say that, by the way.
So. No, he didn't. He didn't even know I was reading.
Oh, yeah, I doubt you had to pay him, bro.
I thoroughly enjoyed that thing. I would tell anybody from a mountain that that's one of the best things
brother.
Out, yo.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. No, thank you. I think if Jason approves it, then there's little I have to say. So like I said, next week, September 7th, you can get Malika Volume 1 anywhere that you would get your books. It's going to be in bookstores, library, comic book shops, online, Amazon, every single place. So yeah, please do check it out, because like we said at the top of the the show, is that the more the higher the sales, the more of these things that you can see. People in the industry respond to numbers. So you can have the best written book ever. If it doesn't sell, you're not going to see Volume 2, 3, or anything else. So please, like I said, go out and support it. If you've bought the unique self-published version, I guarantee you there's some more stuff, bonuses in there that you haven't seen before that we've been able to do with Dark Horse. So September 7th, mark it on your calendars. Malika Volume 1, like Jason said, you won't regret it.
All right, no doubt. And Eric, my man, big dog.
Yeah.
You got always have so much stuff going on. But where can we, find some things, because we can look anywhere and find
always. Yeah, you can still check out my graphic novel series, Legend Mantamaji, at legendmantamaji.com.
When we gonna get the rest
on Amazon, we have our second book
get the rest
series,
of the
Bloodline. Wait,
you did the live action. You did the live action Legend of Mantamaji.
Did the live action short, which hopefully one day soon. Hopefully we'll be able to do some more with it on a much larger scale. But if you want to see the short, you can check it out on the website. We also have the Bloodline series, which is the second series of books. Book 2 is done, it's supposed to come out at Comic-Con, but we haven't had Comic-Con in 2 years because of the pandemic. So hopefully next summer it'll come out. The books are also available digitally. And directing wise, I'm doing the Flash Armageddon kickoff, their crossover. We have one more day of shooting. I got Supergirl coming out, and then I'm also going to be doing Superman, Legends, All-American Homecoming, and Legacies in the next couple months. So it's going to be a fun month. It's a hard, like Roy says, it's a hard balance when you got family, kids, work, and then friends. But you gotta push it if you want to get it done. So always something going on, and hopefully one of my goals is to really expand into, like I was saying when we first started this, like I never see anything there's never been any Black characters in fantasy, and there's never been really Black characters in fantasy, and it's something I'm really that's why my Mantamaji has such a fantasy spin on it. But I'd also like to really push and try and find something that could get made and get into that space, because I feel like it's probably the final frontier for us. So
indeed. And we thank you for being here. We thank you all for being here, representing for AfroCon 2021, the first. We will be back next year, you know what I mean, AfroCon 2022, and hopefully we can all be, in person as a family and have a good time, do the electric slide, the cha-cha, and all of that, you know what I mean? But yeah, we thank you for being here. We appreciate your time, and have a good day. Peace.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Good seeing everybody.
Good to see you guys. Take care, guys.
Bless up. Peace.